All right, welcome to NCSA Live. My name is Kyle Winters, recruiting manager here at NCSA, and we have a fantastic topic for you guys today. We're coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, across all the social media platforms. I am joined yet again by my colleague and mentor, senior recruiting manager, David Kamisic. David, how you doing today?
I get to spend a half hour with you, Kyle. So it's the highlight of my day, my week, possibly my month, even my year. Who knows? We'll see.
It's crazy.
No pressure.
It's crazy how often I get that. You're one of few. You're one of the little people that I like to take care of that way. But we have a great topic for you guys today, as I mentioned, and it's apt for this time of year coming up along into the summer. We know that student athletes are going to be going out playing. There's going to be a lot of camps coming up. So we're going to be talking about how to pick the right camps. We're going to be going over what to look for in a camp, how to pick the right camps, what to do before attending a camp. We'll probably touch a little bit on what to do after that, and we'll go through a live Q&A as well. So if you guys have any questions, whether it's about camps or about any other topic when it comes to the recruiting side of things, feel free to throw them in there. We'll address those at the end. But first and foremost, what to look for in a camp. David, do you want to take it from here? Kind of give us a breakdown of what a student athlete, what a family should be looking for in a camp.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it really depends on what you're trying to get out of that camp. There's a lot of different camps. There's showcases, there's tournaments, there's clinics, there's all sorts of events in the recruiting world. So I think first and foremost for you as a family, it's trying to figure out, what are we trying to accomplish by going to this camp? Is it just to get some skill development? Is it trying to get better at my individual abilities? Is it, getting a chance to see what a college campus looks like, getting a chance to see what the competition looks like, get some great coaching at these camps. If it's more of a skill development and kind of get the experience of the camp, there's a lot of great camps that are out there. Now, if you're going more specifically trying to get recruited at a camp, at a showcase, at a clinic, there's a lot of things that you need to look for. And first and foremost is who's going to be there, right? College coaches, they have certain limitations. They're not going to be at every camp that there is. So which coaches are going to be at this showcase, or which coaches are going to be at that camp? So I think that's a really important piece of it, because again, camps can be costly. You can be spending a few $100s per camp, and if you're just sending your student athlete to any camp that's out there, or any camp that shows an invite to your way, that could be a little expensive. So you have to be very strategic, Kyle, I think, in terms of which camps you're going. And again, that starts by trying to figure out, all right, what are we trying to accomplish by sending our student athlete to this camp? Because again, that's going to really dictate the type of camp that you're going to want to go to, and how much money, how much travel you're going to put into that experience.
Strategic. That's a perfect way of putting it. If you guys are just going for experience and to see where you line up against your competition, for sure, go to as many camps as you want. It's a great experience. It's a great way to get some training. When it comes to the exposure side of things, like David talked about, you're not going to want to spend $5,000-$10,000 or even $1,000 or even $100 going to a bunch of camps across the country if you're not going to get exposure and really not going to get anything out of them. So we have a clip here from a Division III recruiting coordinator at Bridgewater State, where he's going to be talking a little bit more about how they approach camps.
We generally, either this year or next year, we'll probably run a camp ourselves. But what we've been doing over the last several years is just sending our coaches out everywhere. Because what we like to do is go out and meet kids at different camps, because some kids, maybe they live further away or whatnot, but meet kids out at camps and then have them come visit us for games or for tours. We usually go towards that end. So we'll be at a bunch of camps this summer, all across New England, some beyond New England. So chances are, if you go to a camp or two this summer, you'll see us there. And if you're not sure, reach out to us. Just say, hey, coach, what camps are you going to be at? Or, hey, coach, I'm going to this camp. Are you guys going to be there? And we'll tell you where we're going to be, what we're going to go to. And we'll obviously hit the big ones, that have a lot of student athletes at them. But generally, we'll send our coaches out. So chances are, if you go to a camp this summer, especially somewhere in the Northeast, you'll see one of our coaches there.
Awesome. So great perspective from Coach Jon Lyons there. Just a couple takeaways. If you're interested in a camp at a school, they might not host their own camp. So it's being aware of that. They may be at other schools, maybe at other venues. So if you're interested, check around and see where those coaches might be. And I think the biggest thing he touched on was just being proactive in communicating with those college coaches to see where they're going to be about. We talk about that ad nauseum when it comes to the recruiting side of things, that you have to be proactive. You can't just go out there and play, whether it's camps, tournaments, showcases, whatever it may be, and hope that college coaches are going to happen to find you, even if you're going directly to that that university's camp. So kind of talked about how to pick the camps in the first place, but we can probably dig a little bit deeper into this. So I'm going to toss it back to you, David. We have a fantastic tool here on NCSA that can really aid you guys in how to pick the right camps for you a little bit more specifically.
Yeah, there are tons of camps out there, right? There are colleges that put on camps. There are private organizations that put on camps, clinics, showcases, all that sort of stuff. So it's really trying to figure out, of all these camps that are out there, which are the right fits for me. And again, as a student athlete, you can be receiving camp invites from college coaches as early as the first day of your high school career. So freshman year, coaches can be sending out these camp invites to student athletes to let them know, hey, you're someone that we've identified as a potential recruit. We'd like to bring you out to our school. But you do have to be careful of that as well, because some coaches will just send that out to thousands of kids, just trying to sometimes make money for their camp, more so than it being, hey, we're interested in recruiting you, come out to this camp and to this event. So our website, ncsasports.org, we've got some great information to try to help narrow down that search for you. So ncsasports.org, again, is the website. All you got to do is you go to the pick the sport. So pick your sport. So if it's women's soccer, on the left side, you would scroll and you'd see soccer events. And then you can scroll down and you can see we've compiled a list of all the events that are taking place, this spring, this summer, regarding the specific sport. So you can search down by the date range if you've got a specific kind of timeline in terms of when you're trying to get your student athlete out to camps, locations, a clinic versus a showcase versus a camp. So again, this is a great tool. To my knowledge, there's not a website out there that has all this information in one spot. So again, ncsasports.org has all the information. You can see we got the prices listed. You can go to the website, you can check it out to see what is it about this specific camp. Is this going to be the right camp for my student athlete? So again, knowing how many camps are out there and knowing how much money you can spend on these camps can be a very intimidating, I think, a thing to be searching for, especially in the past 2 years. We haven't had a whole lot of college camps and these showcases. COVID really kind of slowed things down, obviously, in 2020, and last year things were kind of getting back to normal, but not full go. So again, this summer, I think is going to be a really big time, Kyle, in terms of families trying to get out, trying to get to these camps, these showcases, in addition to any tournaments they might be playing in. So it's going to be a busy time for families, and again, for families that may be on a budget, being able to really strategically figure out where is this money going to go to help my kids recruiting. That's going to be a really important piece. But again, our website, ncsasports.org, has some really valuable information that hopefully helps make that process or make that selecting which camp to go to a little bit easier for student athletes.
Absolutely. Again, that's a free tool. That's a free widget we have on our website. That's something that anybody can access going on our website and researching those camps. Again, that can still be a little bit overwhelming trying to figure out which ones are going to be the right fit for you. That's something we actually do on our service side of things as well. We have recruiting coaches and a team of people that work with student athletes and families like your own and talk with them about, hey, this would be a good camp for you to attend. This is maybe one that you should look at versus, hey, maybe that's one that doesn't necessarily lead in the right direction, or maybe doesn't give you the support or exposure that you're looking for. So that's something you can talk with us about as well. And we're more than happy to help continue guiding you guys along that path. So hopefully we have a good idea about how to find camps, how to find the right camps. Now, like we talked about, your work isn't over. Obviously you have to perform well at the camp, but one of the biggest things we talk about is what we do before, and we can touch on a little bit after that camp, to make sure those coaches know who you are. When you're attending a camp, and this goes for a tournament, showcase, combine, whatever it may be, there might be 50, 100, 150, 200, there might be 500 players at that camp. It can be hard to stand out from the rest. So you want to make sure that you're on that coach's radar beforehand. So David, I'm going to turn it back over to you. You're the communications expert of my life. What do we do? What should these student athletes and families do before attending a camp?
Yeah, the coach that we heard from Bridgewater State touched on it a little bit, but let the coaches know that you're going to be going to this camp, right? If I'm a college coach and I'm at a camp, or if I'm hosting a camp, and like Kyle said, sometimes there's several hundred kids at these events, I don't have time to individually evaluate each student athlete there as if I'm recruiting them. So a lot of times I'm inviting student athletes to the camp that I'm there to, further evaluate somebody who I've already identified as a prospect. I've seen their film. Now I want to get a chance to see them in person. So again, coaches are at these events, these camps, most times specifically with a list of kids that they're there to further evaluate. So you can pop out, maybe you have a great performance, a great camp, and get on that coach's radar. But the better bet is, instead of hoping that you perform really well and stand out, is reach out to those coaches ahead of time. Let them know, hey, I'm going to be attending your camp on so-and-so. Here's my film. Here's my grades. Again, send them the link to your NCSA profile. All that information is going to be in there. So those coaches have a chance to evaluate you ahead of time. Because again, if you just blindly show up at this camp and hope that you're going to stand out, that's where a lot of families and student athletes that we speak to don't get the bang for their buck at that event. So shoot that coach an email, include your NCSA profile, let them know you're going to be at that event, that camp, whatever the case is, but give them an opportunity to learn about you before the event and not just hopefully discover you at the event. I think that's a big issue that families have, is they just go to these camps, but the coaches don't know who the student athlete is. They don't shine out in the field or the court that specific event. And it's a kind of a waste of money, and they're not getting anything out of it from the recruiting standpoint. So again, taking that step, Kyle, I think is really important. Again, if a coach knows who you are heading into that event, that's going to put you in a much better position than just showing up and hoping that you're going to stand out and catch that coach's attention. While again, they're focusing their attention on further evaluating other kids that they've already known about.
Yeah, from there, it's a bit of an interview. When you're at the camp, make sure you're going up. If the coaches are there, go up to that coach, shake their hand, introduce yourself. There are rules around like talking to coaches when it comes to like recruiting and those types of things, but there aren't rules against going up and introducing yourself to a coach. If you're working with student athletes who are currently playing at that school, go up to them, look them in the eye, shake their hand, introduce yourself as well. Show yourself off. Give them confidence that this is an adult that I'm working with. This isn't someone who's going to come in and be immature and be a problem and hard to work with. Introduce yourself to them, get to know them, show them who you are, and then obviously perform as well as you possibly can, go as hard as you possibly can while you're there. We didn't necessarily have this written in, but from there, it's a lot about follow-up. Make sure you're following up with the coaches from there. Send an email after attending the camp. Thank the coaches for having you. Thank the coaches for hosting it and putting it on. See if you can get some feedback. If you're at a point where coaches respond to you, send them an email asking if they got a chance to evaluate you, if they noticed anything that you should be working on, any highlights or strengths that they saw that I can continue to build off of. But make sure you're maintaining that line of communication with those coaches. So that's going to be another great way to continue moving forward with them instead of just going to a camp and then just hoping everything's going to work out from there, because more often than not, it doesn't end up happening that way. So for juniors, research upcoming college camps and recruiting events. Summer's coming up. Focus on finding the ones that are going to get you the right exposure. Hopefully you're already in communication with coaches. Hopefully you already have a bit of an idea of where you should be going. If not, time to get on it. Start connecting with those coaches, emailing, phone calls. You can go to our website and get a look for camps. Connect with us. We can talk about how to do that. For the underclassmen, freshmen, and sophomores, you can be attending camps as well, but you should be focusing on camps that are going to target skill development. It's not always going to be as much about exposure on the freshman, sophomore side of things. Coaches do want to see you at this point. Not looking for a finished product, though, but you do want to continue building off of your skills and seeing that improvement. You want to be better in June than you were now. That way you can update your highlight video, and a lot of that can come from attending some of these college camps, some of these tournament showcases, skill camps, whatever they may be. So again, if you guys are looking for camps, especially coming up in May, June, July, check out our widget on the website at ncsasports.org. Go to your specific sport, scroll down to events, and you're going to be able to find a list of camps there. You can search, you can do, I believe, areas, dates, whatever it may be, and a ton of information from there. So great stuff, David. We're going to turn it over to our Q&A section. David, I think you have some of our questions coming in here fast and furious.
Yeah, I think just real quick, just to build off your point where you're talking about specific grad years, I think it's really important for upperclassmen at this point to be very specific in what they're doing, right? As an underclassman, a freshman, sophomore, you can probably cast that net a little bit wider, just go to different camps to kind of get a feel for it. But hopefully by the time you're an upperclassman, you're really narrowing in on schools that are going to be a right fit for you, and hopefully some schools that you've had communication with. So again, as an underclassman, you probably can kind of cast that net a little bit wider and maybe hit up different camps just to kind of get a feel for it. But again, as an upperclassman, you should hopefully be a little bit more specific and intentional with which of those camps, those events that you're going to. But we do have some great questions coming in, so let's get to as many as we can here. First one is from Serena. Kyle, I'll let you handle this one. What age should they be reaching out to coaches about camps and such? Their family has a 7th and 8th grader. They've already received about 10 invites, which is awesome. Some of them are quite far away. So is there an age kind of zone that you're looking for with these college camps? Kyle, what's your recommendation there?
Yeah, really good question, Serena. Kind of like David just talked about, it was a perfect prelude into this question. As a 7th and 8th grader, yeah, you can be attending camps. I wouldn't recommend driving all over the country, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to go to camps that are really far away. Some of that, the camp stuff can be a bit of a fundraiser for the college coach side of things as well. So you want to make sure you're attending camps for the right reasons, trying to get either skill experience or exposure. So as a 7th or 8th grader, yeah, I think this is probably a better time to be reaching out, especially for the schools further away, trying to get your name out there a little bit more, building your NCSA profile like Dave talked about, getting some initial video up there so coaches can see what the starting point of your student athletes are and what they look like right now. I understand they're not going to look like finished products. College coaches understand that as well. They're not looking for someone to be a finished product at any point in high school. They're looking to see some foundation. That way they can identify you now and keep track of your progress over the next 3, 4, 5 years. That way, hopefully by the start of your student athlete's senior year, they'll be already done with the recruiting process, not waiting until senior year and then trying to figure it out. So if you have some local camps, you have some that are easier to get to, they're not super expensive. Yeah, it'd be a great experience to go to. Personally, I wouldn't recommend trying to drive or fly all over the country at this point as a 7th or 8th grader.
Yeah, and it even may be more beneficial at that point to be going to high school camps, right? Just to kind of get a good, get in with that coach if it's, high school your student athlete's going to. My nephew just is in his freshman year of high school, and last year he was focusing more on the high school camps, trying to get in good graces with those coaches and show those high school coaches that he can be a valuable piece to their program. So just something to think about too. A lot of high schools will run camps in the summer as well, and it's important to kind of go and show that you're kissing butt a little bit, I guess you could say there. So next question we have is from Pamela here. Pamela wants to know, do coaches ever pool a verbal offer? So what Pamela's meaning here is coaches can verbally offer somebody a roster spot, a scholarship. Coaches do have the ability to pool that offer as well. Rarely does that happen. Usually there's a good reason as to why that happens. Sometimes we've seen instances where a student athlete maybe has some sort of disciplinary actions or off the field stuff, maybe stuff going on in the classroom that the coach will pull that offer. But very rarely is a coach going to do that. If they're offering somebody, there's a lot of research that's done, but coaches certainly have the ability to pull that offer. We're seeing it, I think, even more so probably this day and age when it comes to sports in which coaches are changing jobs, where a student athlete may have had an offer to that program, that coach leaves to go to a different school, a new coach comes in, and suddenly that offer isn't there anymore. So coaches do have the ability to pull an offer, just as if student athletes have the ability to accept an offer and then decommit before signing their letter of intent. So it's a very political world, I think, in college sports that we're living in now, with offers and transfers and all the craziness that's going on with that. But again, a coach can pull an offer from a student athlete. I got a question here from Jim. Jim wants to know, this is kind of relating to the same topic, how are players still signing with programs during the so-called dead period? So Jim, just to make it very clear, a student athlete cannot sign their letter of intent until their senior year of high school. And the NCAA has dates in place as to when those periods begin. So for most student athletes, it's going to be November of your senior year is when you can start signing your letter of intent. And then it kind of keeps it open from there. So Kyle, I don't know if you want to hit on this again, some of the maybe behind the scenes stuff that goes on with recruiting during dead periods. How can student athletes be committing or being able to sign during some of these periods?
Yeah, Jim, it's a huge misconception when it comes to that. And sorry about all the losses in the Super Bowl as well. But I know you had a good run. But yeah, when it comes to the dead period, there's a huge misconception is that during the dead period, student athletes and college coaches cannot have any sort of contact whatsoever. And that's really not the case. During dead periods, during all of the recruiting periods, there's 4 of them that we really refer to. They can still be having communication. They can still be having phone calls. They can still be emailing. They can still have really any sort of conversation when it comes to those types of things. Dead period more refers to in-person contact. It's going to more refer to like being on campus or talking to that student athlete or college coach in person. So it's very plausible. It's very likely that a student athlete could be anywhere in the recruiting process and anywhere of those recruiting periods, including the dead period, and having a phone call with college coaches, and a coach could talk with them over the phone and offer them a verbal offer and scholarship, and that student athlete could accept that verbal offer. Like David talked about, they can't sign that national letter of intent until their senior year. But we see it in sports like baseball, football, basketball. They're all very notorious for coaches having conversations and offering scholarships to student athletes, even before some of the outgoing contact periods for themselves. So we talked about student athletes. They're able to reach out to college coaches really at any point. In those sports, a lot of student athletes, especially at the higher level, they're having conversations early on, and those coaches are making scholarship offers. And in some cases, those student athletes are going to be committing to those schools. So hopefully that answers your question. Hopefully I got Jim Kelly right. I think I did, but I'm just not a very good sports fan, I'm not gonna lie.
That was very appropriate. Yeah. And also too, there can be, maybe you got an offer 2 months ago from a school and you can commit during that quiet period or during that dead period. So maybe there's an offer that was, standing that was on the table for maybe a month ago, and you can commit during that certain period as well. But great question, Jim. 0-4 in the Super Bowls. You were absolutely right, Kyle. Next question we got here is from Letitia. I'm going to bring Kyle back up for this one. Is there a difference, Kyle, between a college ID camp and an ID camp? Again, a lot of differences between these camps, these showcases. Can you help Letitia out here?
Yeah, Letitia, I think they'd be pretty similar in that sense. I think maybe one differentiation that may exist if it's a college ID camp, it may be a specific ID camp that's run by a specific school, whereas an ID camp may be a little bit more generic with various schools coming to it. That'd be my guess. Other than that, probably they're very similar. They might be the exact same. I would approach them the exact same way, and that it can be a good situation to get experience and to see what you look like against the competition. Might be 50, 100, 200 kids out at that ID camp, whether it's a college ID camp or just a ID camp. So it's going to be a lot about the work you put in before and after that, and not just going out there and hoping you get exposure. Really, when it comes to all these situations, you can treat them very much the same. It's going to be about the prep work going into it, and also being able to perform at that camp versus, again, just hoping that you happen to get seen at something like that.
Okay, I think we've hit on a lot of good points here. I think one thing that we should probably touch on is we kind of warn families about camps, and again, being specific and strategic in terms of which ones they're going to. If you are getting invited personally, though, by a college coach to a camp, and sometimes coaches can even foot the bill for that camp as well, that's obviously a really good sign. And that's, again, we talk about like football has junior days, right, where they have kids that they're specifically recruiting, personally invited out to that. I think we should just touch on that real quick, that not all camps are money grabs. Again, if you're getting personally invited to a camp, you've had a connection, you've had a relationship with that coach, that is a really good sign, and probably a camp that you should spend some money going to.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's really not going to be a ton of gray area around that. If you're in that situation, you're going to know that this is a specific camp, that, hey, this coach wants me to come out. They're specifically looking at me. I've had conversations with them already. I've had phone calls. I've talked to them in person. I've emailed with them. You're going to know if that situation is the situation you're in. It's not going to be ambiguous. If you've never had a conversation with a coach or never really emailed with them and don't necessarily have too much interaction, then you can assume this may be a little bit more on the generic side of things. But yeah, absolutely. If the coach is going to waive the fee for you to go to that camp, if they're telling you directly, hey, I want to see you come out to this camp so I can watch you specifically in person, how you play against this competition, heck yeah, that's going to be a great experience. It's going to be a great way to get more exposure to those coaches directly. It's going to be a great way to showcase yourself and to stand out among the rest. So absolutely, yeah, if you're having those type of conversations, you get that type of opportunity, go for it. Not a lot of people get those. They're a little bit higher step for sure.
Right on.
Right on.
All right, let's get into our commitments. We appreciate the questions that came through. So as we do every Tuesday, we're going to honor some of the recent NCSA student athletes who have made their college decision. Kyle, let's kick it off with you.
Awesome. Our first commit today is Dylan. I'm going to say hoo-ha. I kind of want to say hoo-ha, but I don't know Dylan. But Dylan is committed to Albright College. He's a senior who started up with NCSA here not too long ago, just starting back in November of 2021. Started getting attention pretty much right away from there. He was really down to two different schools. He was between Ramapo and Albright, got attention from both schools through his NCSA profile. Albright was following him, had viewed him 3 times. Ramapo traded 4 emails with him through his NCSA website. So we obviously, again, we don't recommend waiting until November of your senior year, but it gives you a little perspective of the power of our network and what can be done in a small amount of time for a student athlete like Dylan. So congratulations to you and best of luck at Albright, Dylan.
Hooah. That's what I keep thinking of. Next up, we go to the volleyball court. Juliana Rettig. This is an awesome story. Someone who put in a ton of work, had a ton of success throughout the recruiting process. Juliana and her family signed up with NCSA during the middle of her sophomore year. She's from kind of locally here, Antioch, Illinois. She committed to Southwest Baptist University, which is a Division II school in Missouri, the Southwest Baptist Bearcats. But Juliana was extremely engaged throughout this process. She logged into her profile almost 1,100 times. Her profile was viewed by 383 college coaches, had 55 coaches following her profile. She appeared in almost 1,000 searches. And then this one is pretty extraordinary, Kyle. I don't know if I've seen someone be this active with their emails, but almost 3,600 emails exchanged with college coaches through her NCSA profile. So again, if your student athlete doesn't have an NCSA profile, get one built, reach out to us, connect with us. Juliana and her family had a ton of success, and she's only a junior right now. So she's still a 2023 grad. So we talk about using that senior year as kind of a victory lap and putting in the work early on to have success in the recruiting process. Juliana's done so. She's going to enjoy her senior year and have that weight off her shoulder until November when she signs that letter of intent. So congratulations, Juliana, an awesome job putting in the effort and the work that you did to put yourself in the situation. That's awesome.
Yeah, wow, that's outstanding, Juliana. That we talked a little bit about communicating with college coaches. I don't know if we have a better example of that. 3,600 emails is fantastic. Can't believe I missed the scent of a woman reference there. It was hanging right in front of me, low hanging fruit. But glad you nailed it for me.
I'm here to pick you up when you fall, Kyle. You know.
I know it. That's why we work together so well. Because I fall so constantly, and you're right there to pick me up. Cool. Our last commit here for today is Ty Spurlock, baseball player headed to John Melvin University, another student athlete who got started a little bit late toward the end of last year in his senior year. It was about August. Had some success through his profile, 12 views, 47 searches, 7 follows, 12 opens. He's ultimately going to John Melvin, which is a smaller Christian school with a little bit of a newer athletic program. So they're starting to offer collegiate sports. I think this is maybe one of their first couple years, and they're going to be applying to be part of the NAIA, the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, moving forward here. So Ty kind of being one of the forerunners of a new program coming up with John Melvin. So another really good success story here. And all of our three of our student athletes, really good success stories here today. David, anything else around camps and showcases, upcoming summer months here?
Yeah, it's going to be a busy summer. Like I said, I think the last 2 summers with everything still affected by COVID, I think this summer is going to be a busy time. A lot of tournaments, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of kind of missed time. So I think college coaches are also going to be more active this summer than they have been the past 2 summers too. So again, I think the most important thing is if you are identifying camps or showcases to go to, and again, trying to really get your bang for your buck from an exposure standpoint, reach out to coaches, reach out to them ahead of time, ask if they're going to be there, try to get yourself on the radar. Again, the more work you can do prior to these events, prior to the summer, and do it now. Don't wait until the day before the camp to do it. If you know about it, get ahead of it as much as possible, because coaches, again, they have to be very strategic with where they're going, and they can't be at 17 camps in one weekend. So again, like always, I think the more proactive you are early and the more ahead of this you can be, the more bang for your buck you're going to get out of these camps and these events this summer. And again, hopefully get an opportunity to get seen by college coaches. And again, hopefully that'll leapfrog things with your recruiting process then heading into the school year in the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic point. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've gotten from the college coaches I know, because I do know a couple, is that the student athletes they've been talking to over the last couple of years, I was maybe about a year ago talking about the sophomore class, the Division II school. They talked about the fact that it seemed like a lot of student athletes were unprepared, that they were behind the times, that they hadn't put any work into this. And so it was hard recruiting them because the student athletes really just had not done enough to prepare themselves yet. So things getting a little bit back to normal, which means we got to pick up our pace and we got to be like Juliana, sending out 3,600 emails. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time. That's why we talk about starting this so early. So again, hopefully that's very helpful. Check out our website, ncsasports.org. Check out the new events widget. That should be very helpful. And we'll see you guys again here next Tuesday for another outstanding NCSA Live. David, have a great week. We'll see you soon.
See you, Kyle. Take care.